How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be reviewing the GVM 800D. As a matter of fact, I should have reviewed this light over a year and a half or something like that, since the very first time they came up with this light here. So when I bought this light, again, there was nothing on the internet over a year and a half ago, but right now there's probably as many uploads with the GVM 800D than there are uploads with the Godox SL60W, which, by the way, is the light that's lighting me as a key light. I decided to review the GVM 800D because people who've been watching my channels, they already know when I review something, I review from top to bottom in extreme detail, and this video is not going to be different. So I'm going to be showing you guys everything that's new and a tiny little fraud that I have discovered here since they implemented the new thing, which is the effects on this light in a particular effect. So I'm going to be showing you guys and covering every single thing that you want to know about these lights. They sell these by the individual unit, but it's also cool to have a kit if you're starting a YouTube channel or if you're in beginning or on a budget. This is great. It comes with everything they need: the 2 lights, 2 power cords and 2 power adapters, 2 light stands, and also a nice EVA material type of case that has the slots for the lights and also a cover to protect the lights when you put the stands on top and the power supplies and everything. So this case is very well designed and everything is extremely easy and portable. You can take this pretty much anywhere. Now these light stands that they include here, they're pretty compact, as you can see, fits perfectly on the case. And the best way to open any light stand, you put your thumb here on the center pole and then with the other fingers you pull it out, 3, and then this is effortless to open. You slide your hand down here to collapse, you just do this, and again to open, you just do this. So these stands here, they're very easy to open. Make sure you tighten this knob but not over tightening because this is made of plastic. You don't want to break this. This is actually difficult to break, but you know, I'm just saying. And these knobs here, there's nothing spectacular, nothing luxurious, nothing high-tech. It's just a little plastic knob, but they do the job right. And also when you raise the stand, make sure you actually recess 1 inch, which makes the thing here stronger, because if you open it all the way up, even when you tighten, the stand might wobble a little bit. So always make sure that you recess 1 inch and do the same exact thing for the other remaining 2 poles over here. This stand provides a decent height for most normal things that you want to do with lighting. If you want to do a little key light or shine the light on the backdrop or whatever it is. But if you need the light to be at a very high height, you're going to use another stand for this. And also when I see beginners using a light stand, the first thing that I see them doing is to have the stand this way here, which is going to provide no stability whatsoever. Now the best way to tell if you open the stand right, make sure these things here are in full horizontal position like this, which means the stand is open at its widest. Because if you keep going, it's going to be unstable as this position right here. Unless you are having a very tight space, and if you know what you're doing, you can certainly kind of safely just put the lights this way here and they will not fall as long as you know what you're doing and using common sense. But the best way to open the stands is flat like that. And as you know, this comes with 2 light stands. I'm using one in my hands here for demonstration purposes, and right now I'm using some other stand here, but this is the very stand that I'm actually utilizing here, which is the stand that comes with this kit. So the previous GVM 800D models, they didn't have any effects. They have the CCT mode, which is the bicolor side, and also the RGB, and that's it. And then they added the effect. Not only the GVM 800D, they also had added effect on the GVM 150S, the GVM 50RS, and also the 800D. Now the largest panels that the GVM makes, which is not really a popular one, is the 110S. It currently doesn't have any effects, but GVM is thinking about implementing these effects as well. So with these 3 lights that I mentioned, what are the difference between them? The GVM 150S is a monolight, which is a COB chip. So it acts just like a monolight, but it's got RGB effect and 150 watts of power, which you can actually add all kinds of modifiers as long as they have a Bowens mount on it. Now the 800D and the 50RS, they are square panels like this. The only difference between them two is power. It's the same exact thing. They do exactly the same thing. They have the same design of LEDs. It's just a slightly bigger panel and more power. Other than that, they are identical lights. These lights can be used in both applications, the beginners and also professional. I particularly use these lights to fill backdrops, shining their light in some subject or something. I don't use these lights for key light because I would prefer obviously to have the proper softbox with a grid and everything, with as many layers of diffusion that I want to put in here. As a matter of fact, you see another 800D in the background there, which is so useful for lighting backdrops. This is the primary way that I like or enjoy using these lights for. So as you can see, these lights are powered off. The only light source right now is the GVM 800D. For professional applications, these little lights, they are lifesavers because sometimes I have to deal with 4 6 or 8 people interview in a large group, and usually it is at somebody's house, in which the house is also big. So we have a bunch of rooms in the frame, they're dark, and I don't want to rely on the crappy lighting, the chandelier with those weird lights. So I can actually bring each one of these lights, and to fill each room I can decide if you want to do a little RGB or regular light or tungsten or daylight, but you actually set the mood, the intensity, so you can actually have any kind of look, feeling this room with these little lights here. And this is the primary use that I find for these lights on my production. I don't want to be doing key lights with this because I have a trillion types of light and a very large softbox. But if this is the very first kit that you bought, or if this is the only lights that you have and you want to use one of these lights as a key, no problem. I would recommend that you add another layer of diffusion here, and also a Roscoe diffusion gel. You can actually put it right here, and to diffuse the lights further. I'm gonna be calling these the GVM 800D Mark IIs. The Mark Is, they didn't have effect, that's one difference. And the second thing, they usually provide a heavier, a milkier type of diffuser here, which helped to diffuse the light more. But keep in mind that when you have a diffuser so close to the LEDs, even if they are heavier, you're not gonna be having a lot of diffusion. So the farther it is, the more diffusion there is. So if you want to apply more diffusion here, make sure you cut a piece of this Roscoe frost gel here, one piece inside here, and the other one this way, for a larger diffusion, which also makes the light source bigger. The best way to diffuse a light, each layer of diffusion, the further you are from the light, the bigger the light becomes, and also the distance here allows the light to become even softer. If you put this thing here all the way close to the LEDs, it's not going to be really doing much for diffusion, but it will help if you cut a piece of this gel here and put it right here, and also then you add this here. So the way the light is right now mounting vertically, the barn doors are going to get in the way, and as you can see here, this features a dual way spigot mount here. So all you have to do is to turn the yoke 90 degrees that way, which will allow the full control of tilting of the light. And then when you clamp this material here with the light at 90 degrees facing this way, you're going to create a circle which provides greater distance from the light, providing more diffusion. And this applies to many panels because most of them, they are required to be tilted 90 degrees to have that kind of control, especially with the barn doors attached. If you want to remove the barn doors, you can, but keep in mind that you're going to be speeding light everywhere. But also keep in mind that these barn doors here, they're not designed to do anything precise unless you have a barn door that's like this long. You attach a cinefoil or some piece of a black cardboard, whatever you want to do as a DIY. Another thing that you will notice when you expose these LEDs without any diffusion material here, or even with this material that came with this light, you will notice that this barn doors here is almost for decoration because they don't do almost anything as far as lighting control. First thing that's going to happen that you're going to see a lot of artifacts on the whatever you were shining this light at. So if you apply more diffusion here, it helps a little bit, but not much. So keep in mind that these barn doors here, they're not designed to be doing anything scientific with control, maximum control. Another thing that can help if you want these barn doors to be useful, you can actually do a cinefoil here, or also make some kind of an extension here with a cardboard painted black. As long as you have a very big door here, you'll be able to really control the lights, because these little doors here, they don't do much as far as light controls. And it's not only the 800D, most panels like this, the barn doors will not do much. Remember this thing that I showed you here, they also come with an optional grid, so when you actually install this in the front of the light, you can have a lot better lighting speed control. So what the grids do here, if you don't see the black, it means the light is not going to shine on whatever you're pointing the light at. When you see a little bit of the white, you're going to see a little bit of light spill, and this is the whole full output of this. So turn this back here, no lighting spills that way, only in the front. However, when you install a grid, you're modifying the light twice, not only the degree of lighting spill, but also the degree of diffusion. So the light also changes because the light is a lot softer when you remove this material here. But if you need absolute control, you will have to put the grid on. And here's the back panel of the light for some of you who are somehow unfamiliar with this light. Here's the power switch over here. We have the AC and also the off switch. And for DC, you put your Sony MPF batteries here as usual. And then you have your DC. You just don't want to be doing this with the switch because you're going to be breaking this in no time. Just take it easy, DC, and then off, and then AC. And this knob controls the brightness level. As you can see, it goes from 0 to 1% increments. The previous 800D they had 5% increments. I actually prefer that because you're gonna be here all night turning this until it reaches 100%. But GVM listens to customers' feedback. Everybody was asking for the 1% increment, and this is how it goes. If you want your 1% increments, you got it. And this button here controls the color temperature. This light ranges from 5600 Kelvin all the way down to 3200 degrees Kelvin. And keep in mind, when you are at 4200 degrees Kelvin, this is the maximum power of this light on CCT mode, which is the bicolor. So both LEDs are equally lit. So when you go to 3200, you only have the tungsten LEDs on, and the same thing with the 5600, only the daylight LEDs are on. You'll notice that the intensity doubles in the background there when you are at 4200 degrees Kelvin, and of course it's going to draw more power of this light. So I think when they say 40 watts, I think is at this point, or when the RGBs, they're all set to white, because here I don't think it is consuming more than 25 watts, I would guess, but the actual 40 watts will be around here. And this knob here will also take you to the RGB mode by pressing it once, as you can see, and also pressing once again, you have the saturation control. Press it once again, go back to the CCT mode, which is bicolor. So I'm going to be going to RGB now. You have the full 360 with the colors. You have your reds, your greens, your blues, or magentas and stuff like that, all the way back to red again. Press this button once again to reach the saturation mode. I would not recommend it to pass below 95% because this is acting almost like at 30%. The saturated colors, I would go no less than 95%. And then you go back to the hue, and then you can actually control less color saturation. As you can see, at 90% it does a pretty good job. Now if you go to 90% or below, as you can see, it's not going to be that effective. Let me choose a red here, which is the 0. There you go. So it's more like a pink. Another thing to keep in mind here with the GVM lights, besides the saturation levels, it has a lot to do with the brightness, the way you want to control the RGB. If you want a smoother curve as far as changing the colors, because these lights, they have a little jumps, which to me is not a big deal because you're not really recording anything live, but when it starts changing colors around the spectrum here, it's somewhat smooth because at 100% the LEDs, they dim more gently. And then when I go back to red again here, I'm going to show you the same thing now, decreasing the brightness to something like 10%. Now, as you can see here, the jumps are a little bit more aggressive, and also the curve doesn't change a whole lot. So it's still green, 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 some kind of a yellowish green, and then suddenly it will change to a cyan or something like that. So instead of doing gradually, it will either jump from the red to the magenta to the, you follow what I'm saying? Now let's try 50%, see what happens. Now at 50%, I think it will be okay. As you can see, the colors start to gradually change. So here I'm gonna show you guys each and every effect and what they do, in particular, one by one. And to access the effects, you keep pressing the mode button until you find the effects. To change the effects, you press the arrows up and down, which is the party, disco, paparazzi, lightning, cop car, candle, TV, and bad bulb, and then back to party. And this whole thing here is also self-explanatory. The master means you can actually do whatever you want with this light, and the other light set to slave from this light here. And the Wi-Fi, you have to connect it through the app. And this is the button that also accesses the effects page. And the effects are changed from these buttons here, the up and down arrows. The rotate here is when you want to temporarily disconnect this light in case you are controlling this light by the other light set to master, or if the other lights are set to Wi-Fi, or this one here. So you can actually control your brightness and your CCT or RGB, everything separate, and then you can actually resume by going back to the slave or the Wi-Fi. Now I'm going to be showing you guys each and individual effect, what they do. You can control the brightness in this particular effect here, and also the timing. 100 milliseconds equals 1/10 of a second. So when you go to the disco mode, it looks identical to the party. But when you change the timing, you will see a difference here already. So the disco mode is going to be flashing many times the same color, while the party is doing a little bit something different here. So continue with the party mode. Let's go to a full second. So it's pretty much every second this is going to happen. At a disco, every second it's going to be flashing a different color, something like that. And on party, at 5,000 milliseconds, every 5 seconds this is going to happen. It's going to be changing the colors, and the same thing with the disco. But on the disco, it's going to be flashing the same colors for the whole 5 seconds, and then it changes, as you can see there. Next one is the paparazzi. That's self-explanatory, and you can control the brightness from 0 to 100%. Next will be the lighting. This is cool because I've never seen a light panel unless the very expensive ones they can program, because the lightning only happens once and then it stops. You have to come here and press this button every time you want to see the lightning. If you don't press this button, the lightning does not happen. This is very good when the cameras are rolling, and then you can actually signal somebody somehow, hey, I want my lighting, and then action, now, and then stop. And then more lighting. Again, this is genius. I wish all the manufacturers, they design the same way with the lighting, because what happens is many panels that I see, this thing keeps flashing every like 3 seconds. And this is not really effective. It doesn't make a sense because it's gonna get in the way here when you don't want the lighting to happen. So you press this thing here anytime you want. If you don't press this button, nothing happens. Next will be the cop car. Again, self-explanatory. I wish, however, I could change the timing on this to make the light slower or faster, but you can't, only the brightness. Next is the candle. The problem that I see with the candles here is because they use the RGB to mimic a candlelight. In my opinion, I would say they should go back to the CCT mode. And the way flicker is okay. There's not a lot of changes. So it's okay, it's usable, but you know, this is how the candlelight effect looks like. It does the job. Now keep in mind that when you lower the brightness on this particular panels here, as you can see, the colors is shifting to green. So if you want the candle light, you have to be at a minimum, I would say 50%, even better, like probably 70%. And then as you can see, the candlelight kind of does a little something. But if you lower the brightness, look what happens to my skin tone and the background itself. You know, now I'm greenish. So that one is okay. So far the lighting, the disco, and the party mode, I think they're the coolest. Next is the TV. That one is pretty cool. It's okay still, but it's there. But I tell you what, the fact that this panel costs only 99 bucks, has RGB, CCT, we can't really be pushy, can we? I think that even the fact that they put the effects here now and the price didn't change, it's the same $99 for one unit. Next is the bed bulb. This one here you can actually control the brightness and the CCT. 5600. And 3200. Now the candlelight, this is what I want them to do, because instead of using the fake candle with the RGBs, they should have gone to the 32 Kelvin on a CCT mode instead of the what it looks here, instead of this. So if the candlelight, they did the same effect here that they used the CCT mode on 3200 Kelvin here, for example, it would look a lot better, especially if you want to change your Kelvin degrees manually on the camera. You can actually make this as warm as you like. And then the color of the candlelight is up to you what you want it to look like. But when you have it locked on the RGB, faking the tungsten, you know, there's not much you can do about it. Now, as I described before, the very first time this GVM 800D came out, it didn't have effects, and this is actually the Mark II. So luckily I have the two examples here. So this is the batch 2 and this is the batch 1. So going back to the latest batch over here, as you can see, this problem no longer exists. For example, let's go to the effects page and select party. You exit to master. You can freely control your brightness and whatever this knob is doing here. Now let's go back to the effects again, select disco, and then exit back to the regular master. As you can see, you can still control the brightness and this here. Now if you go to the first batch over here, let's go back to the effects page. And right now I'm on party mode. I'm exiting that to the regular master again. And of course you can actually change your brightness and CCT mode. Now let's go back to the effects page and select disco. It doesn't matter what you do here or here. Exit this, you're no longer able to control this button here. It's stuck. The brightness somehow you can. So all I have to do is go back to the disco. This is very important because you're going to be thinking your light broke, but it didn't. So to take care of this problem here, as long as you are not into the disco mode, it can be any effect but disco. And then you exit here, you go to your master again, and then you can control the brightness, and again this button magically works again. I wish these things they have a USB so you can actually update software, because this is actually impossible to do. So if you have this batch over here, you gotta remember they are not on disco mode and leave this effect page. Same exact thing happens here with the RGB. If you go to the effects page and you forget to select anything other than disco before you exiting the effects page, I'm gonna do this right now. I'm gonna exit it out, go back to the master and select RGB. You cannot control the hue saturation button. You have to go back to the effects page and select any effect other than disco. Can be anything, okay? Then you go back to the RGB. You can actually control your buttons again. Now here's an example how to use the master slave feature on the slides. It doesn't matter what model of RGB or GVM lights you have, they're all going to work here. It doesn't matter if it is the 50RS combined with the 800Ds, it doesn't matter. As long as you have at least one light set to master and the other remaining lights set to slave, and as long as they are set to the same channel, we can control everything as one single group. Let's say that you have 10 of these lights and you want to configure in separate groups. As long as you have, again, one light set to master and that particular channel, for example, this one is here set to channel 0, 0, 0, and my other group of like 6 lights over there, at least one light is on master mode, as long as it is not set to the same channel here. So actually you can control the master light over there, they're going to be doing the same thing on that group, and the same exact thing over here. So this is how they behave. There's a slight delay here, but as you can see, all lights will respond. So it's pretty simple, pretty fun to use. And of course you can control your brightness and again the colors. So for example, I'm actually going to be changing the channel from this light here to other than the channel 0. So this light's at channel 0, and as you can see I'm changing this color to red, and this light in the middle is not responding. This light is still blue. You set the channel back to 0 here, and then when you change the colors, it will respond as well. So everything orange, everything green, so it will also respond. So when you have them combined, you actually have 3 times as much power, so this red becomes really red, and then the magentas and everything, so it's pretty nice, simple, and very fun to use these lights. So you can actually control your RGBs, and it's not only limited to your RGB. I'm on CCT mode, this one master, the other one's on slave. You can actually control your color temperature to tungsten light, all the way up to daylight. You can also control your brightness. You can also control your saturation. Pretty much anything that you're doing with these lights, these other ones will respond. Now one thing to keep in mind here, if you try to mix the bicolors with the RGBs using the Wi-Fi or master slave, it's not going to work, obviously, because it is a different platform. It's a completely different thing, since the bicolors, they don't have the RGB controls, right? So if you want to use the bicolors, they all have to be bicolor, and if you want to use your RGB series of lights here, they all have to be connected to the same group as long as the whole thing is RGB. So that's all I got for this review. If you like what you saw, or if lighting is your thing, please consider subscribing to this channel, because most things that we review here are lighting products. And if you want to leave a comment, I'll respond to everything that I see there. And also if you want to give me a thumbs up, I would appreciate it, because it also tells me that I'm doing a good job. And also it's good for the YouTube algorithms for my channel. So I'll see you next time, and thank you very much for watching.